Well, there are two elements to this question. One is the legacy legislation that was not completed by the time the Parliament had to draw stumps and go off to the campaign trail in mid-April. And one is the legislation that was then completed, but we're now looking at the implementation process and what happens. Let's deal with the first question first. The legacy legislation that will have to be revisited and may well be the object of quite a lot of negotiation between the new Parliament, the Council and the new Commission. Don't forget the new Commission has come in 1st November, and that's now a matter of political horse trading. That legislation, of that legislation, the ones that concern us most are the benchmarks legislation, because of any impact they may have on the retail benchmarks, retail indices, I'm sorry, that we generate for use by our members, which we feel ought to be thought of differently from some of the big wholesale indices which affect the interest rates around the world. Ours don't, and so they don't have to have those considerations. And we also worry a bit about the money laundering and data protection legislation which is left over. We don't want to see a conflict of law arising whereby data protection stops us from being able to fulfill the money laundering requirements placed on our firms. So there are issues there arising. We should want to watch that very closely. And then I think in other areas, the long-term investment fund and the non-bank sector, the money market funds, the shadow banking sector, if you like, those areas that will be subject to further legislation downstream as a leftover from the previous Parliament, we should want to watch those too. So there is a number of pieces of legislation that we're going to be looking at in the next few months. As regards the legislation that has been, the second part of your question, that has been agreed and now to be implemented, ESMA, the European Securities and Markets Authority, one of the three ESAs, which are the European Securities Authorities, ESMA has now come out with the consultation documents for the level 2 legislation it has to draft. There are two types. For the directive, it must advise the Commission on what should go into the level 2 implementing regulations for the MiFID, and on the regulation, it has to tell the Commission what it would like to write as the regulatory technical standards or European rules for the MiFIR. So it's doing both those things now, kicking off the process, that is, by consulting, and that'll take time, and we are going to be deeply involved in responding to the ESMA consultation documents over the summer, and then we'll take it all from there.